How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Episode 2 of the Main Stage podcast. I'm your host, Ewan, and this week I am joined by a pretty prominent figure in the festival Twitter scene, as well as one half of the Black and White FPL podcast. I'm joined by Alfie Clark, everyone. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad, Paul. I'm not too bad. I'm a bit nippy, I'm not going to lie. It's absolutely freezing in this house. I tell you what, mind. Christ, but I can't be lumping the heating on, getting me Marmite rate. You know what I mean? So it's not like uni where I can just leave it on.
Yeah.
But
I will say that Alfie, that you had a pretty big role to play actually in the creation of this podcast, whether you know it or not.
Oh,
I think if it wasn't for you asking me to jump on Black and White, I don't know if I'd have been as driven and ready to go when this podcast started. So while we're here, do you have anything to plug? I'll whack some stuff up on screen too, but yeah, plug away.
So yeah, as you mentioned, the Black and White FPL podcast, that is my personal podcast that I do with my friend Miller. As the name entails, it's about Fantasy Premier League. If anyone does play that, get on it. It's really just for a laugh. We have some fun on there. We have a few giggles, and whilst a lot of the podcasts, they take it very seriously. All this advice. We chat a lot of shit. We're definitely not experts. So yeah, if you want to get on that, the Black and White FPL podcast, we're on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, as well as Anchor. If you want to use that, listen free on there. Black White FPL is the Twitter page, and you can follow my Twitter as well, Alfie_Clark12.
I'm going to be dropping all the links in the description as well. Some of them will be on screen now, Twitter handles, etc. But yeah, so obviously I know we spoke about it on your pod, but I think I wanted to briefly touch upon it. The Reading and Leeds announcement, but it's worth talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So just give me a brief rundown. How do you feel about it? Who are you excited to see? Who do you think they'll last?
Yeah, I mean, again, the main two that obviously disappointers are Lewis Capaldi and Imagine Dragons. I mean, two of the last names that I'd ever want headlining this festival.
Right.
But again, in the same breath, I've got 4 headliners there that I'll take, and in the same way, it's I didn't see 2 of the headliners last year, being Megan and Halsey, and I saw 4 last year, being 75 Monkeys, Bring Me, and who was the other one? Dave. So again, in the same breath, it's kind of like that. Obviously, it's very early days in the lineup. Like I said in ours, I still think there'll be about 20-ish bands that I want to go and see by the end of it. And I'm hoping for it.
I've noticed myself that I think in terms of what they'd be trying to do with a 6 headliners bill, in terms of what they're trying to do, they've got 2. I think the common consensus is they've got 2 stinkers, 2 fine ones, 2 very good ones, in Foles and the Killers. So I think in terms of pleasing everyone or not pleasing everyone, I've got to give them props for that. They've not just opted to please everyone, but
that's fair.
I just do think it's a big mistake pulling Imagine Dragons in, and I think there were so many other options, and I'm just personally I'm disappointed with that.
Because what I was thinking, the engagement survey they do after every festival, where they ask people who they want at the festival, and you do that little fill a form out where you pick a certain amount of numbers. How many people do you think actually clicked on Imagine Dragons?
That's what I'm thinking. Do you know what? I'd be surprised if they were. I wouldn't be shocked if they weren't even on that form.
I'm pretty sure they. No, that's the thing. I'm pretty sure they were. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing their name on there as as potential. I don't know.
It looks like they were, but it wouldn't surprise me if they just weren't even an option.
Yeah, true.
And it's just kind of this force-fed option. I'm hoping that it's like a joke, and that on April Fool's Day we'll find out.
That would be so cruel. That would be so cruel.
They'd have us on strings, to be fair, and I think, honestly, imagine they pull out on the last day. They go, no, actually, we're not having Imagine Dragons. Run that off.
Just manifesting them pulling out. Just please, something.
We've got someone insane.
Something.
Catfish and the bottom end reunite to play the scene. But no, into the main reason we're here. Desert Island Discs. So I've got another episode of this coming up with the Festival Mill, where we're going to be discussing songs. But I want to talk to you today about albums.
All right then.
So obviously, off screen, I've spoken to you. I've asked you for your 10 albums that you take to Desert Island. me any 10, you're like, I'm not going to exclude live albums, but I'm going to cap at 2,
Yeah.
just to kind of keep the discipline level
Mhm.
there. They don't have to be in order, but we'll go back and forth. We're just going to count down the 10 and discuss every
Yeah.
one. So if you want to go first and kick us off with any honourable mentions you might have.
I've not got any down on my notes. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I was again. To be fair, I'm glad you're not doing an order, because these aren't in order. I'm not gonna lie to you, so I don't want to be bouncing back and forth between these
There's
two.
no order you can do it, really. It's just
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of albums. I think
I don't have any. I don't have any prepared. Sammy, do you have
I
any?
have 6 written down here.
Radio.
But it's more 7.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go through them pretty quickly. First one, it didn't make it because it's not actually an album; it's a compilation. And it's going to be kind of, this is not a joke. This is genuinely one of my honourable picks. Is Journals by Justin Bieber. Honestly,
Okay.
the best Bieber album, an out there pick. And the way that I thought about this is, look, if I'm going to a desert island, I want some variety.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? Bring the Beaver. This is his best
Bring the
album.
Beebs.
Honestly, this album has some good tunes. It's kind of, there's an R. Kelly feature on here, which isn't ideal. But in terms of the rest of the album, it's fucking good stuff. It's underrated as well.
Fair enough.
I think it needs to be appreciated more. I think it's 14 tracks, 13 because we're not counting the R. Kelly feature. And those 13 tracks, they're pretty fucking good, man. They're a vibe.
Nice.
So that's my first honourable pick. I've also got Working Men's Club's self-titled album,
Okay.
which is just a big vibe. It's just that head bopping all the way through. I'm ready to go when I hear those tunes. My third pick is an Arctic Monkeys album. It's Tranquility Base. I wanted to contain it to kind of one album per artist. And there is another Arctic Monkeys album in my actual list. So Tranquility Base just didn't cut. But that would have been in there as like if I had a number 11, Tranquility Base would have been that number 11. My other 4 picks, I've got King Cruel, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon. The only reason that didn't make it on here is because I've not actually heard the whole thing in full. I just know that there were songs that I could not live without on that album.
Fair enough.
That's why that's up there. Then I've got like a joint honourable mention, which is the 1975 I Like It When You Sleep and A Brief Inquiry. I kind of can't weigh up which one I prefer. I think they're both good for different things. I think the aesthetic quality of I Like It When You Sleep is superior. But I think tonally and like thematically, A Brief Inquiry is one of my favourite albums ever. And then my last honourable mention is Blue Weekend by Wolf Alice. So they're my 6. Kind of just scattered this one after I picked my 10.
Yeah.
None of them would make it in my 10. But yeah, I'll let you go ahead then with your number 10.
No worries. So first pick for me, first I got on my list. I went with Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a couple of these albums a listen back before recording this. This was one of them that I did want to give a listen back just to cement it. And it's amazing, man. It's amazing, man. Like the fact that obviously I was like, what? How old would I have been? Because this was when I was checking. Actually, this was released one day before my. It would have been one day before my 11th birthday. It would have been
right
on the 22nd of October.
Right.
So yeah, that's a bit of a tidbit.
I like Good Kid, Mad City a lot. I think a lot of those tunes are like some of my favorite Kendrick tunes. Don't know if I put it as my favorite album. I think
it's
I'm
just
kind
classics, man.
I think I'm more to Pimp a Butterfly than I am Good Kid, Mad City.
That's really the divide, isn't it?
Yeah. I think countless tunes on there. You've got like Money Trees. What else is on there?
You got the Art of Peer Pressure.
Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe.
Poetic Justice with Drake.
The first track again.
Shireen.
That's the one.
Yeah. Shireen.
Have you ever heard? I don't know how familiar you are with like piss take like shitpost music, but there is an account on SoundCloud that basically that remakes Kendrick albums from the perspective of SpongeBob.
I've seen this. Yes.
I came across this year, and it might be
seen this.
one of my favorite things ever. I was honestly
really funny.
I was honestly tempted to whack it in my top 10 albums of the year.
It's very creative, isn't it? It's very creative.
It's very creative. A part of me still is tempted by that, and I've not filmed the video yet, so there's a chance I'm gonna.
It's a solid honourable mention at least.
Yeah, 100%. I remember being in uni one day, and we must have been talking. It was around the time Mr. Morale came out, and we'd all been like DJing at someone's house the night before, and someone whacked that song on, or at least one of those songs from that parody album. And we were like, "What is this?"
Amazing.
And it's just become like a thing in our like uni group that's now like it's like this famous like piece of art within our uni group that we all.
I'm sure you've seen like the SpongeBob covers that channel was doing on YouTube like back in April or something like that of just like popular songs.
I haven't.
Have you not seen that? They've done some of those ones are amazing, which I actually listen to. Like they've done one of like Family Ties, King's Dead. Like it's so hilarious.
Not only are there SpongeBob parodies of these songs, I also delved down a wormhole and found Fortnite.
There's Fortnite ones as well, yeah.
Oh, what is it? V-Book trees?
V-Book tree. Fire.
Is one of the strangest and one of the most divisive things music has ever seen. But
the internet.
You've gotta love it.
Yeah, man.
I'll give you my number 10 pick.
No worries.
So this could have been between two albums because I was looking for variety was my main thing that I wanted to hold on to. So I originally went with Don Broco Technology because I wanted like a heavier album in there.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually going to switch the pick, and it's for the exact same reason. I'm going to switch the pick to Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water by Limp Bizkit.
All right then.
Which is the Rolling album.
One of the worst album names of all time, by the way.
Is creative. It's definitely
it's out there.
Yeah, I think it's memorable. Do you know?
Yeah, obviously, that's what you want music to be.
If anything, I think the cover art is
cover art is nuts.
The cover art might be the most horrific thing I've ever seen. Very reminiscent of Microsoft Paint and just fucking around on Microsoft Paint as a 7-year-old. If anyone needs something to liken that image to, but no, honestly, banger after banger, serious on the album. Like you get. What do? They've got Rolling. You've got Full Nelson, Living It Up. You've got the Rolling Urban Assault Vehicle, which is aptly named. There is a Ben Stiller shout out on the album. He opens one of the tracks by shouting out Ben Stiller for whatever reason. I just love the Biscuit at the minute. I'm on it, and for the same reason as Broco, it was one of the albums that got me back into heavy music. Like, I had my emo phase pretty early, like 11, 12. So when I kind of fell away from that, I was very much like the indie kid. And I think getting back into like Don Broco and Limp Bizkit specifically, and like Bring Me the Horizon and Biffy Clyro, those were the bands that sort of got me to fall back in love with heavier music. And I think Limp Bizkit was the one that kind of said, like, show me not to take everything so seriously.
They aren't about really like dive deep into the the methodical side of them. It's a band for a fish island.
Yeah, you can really just have fun with Limp Bizkit, and the thing is as well, in terms of the lyrics, that's all it is. You just kind of have fun, and the vocals, it's just fucking around. But to be fair, musically, it's honestly a really good album. Like musically, it's. Genuinely got like the songs genuinely go really hard and the instrumentals are like really nice to listen to. So that's why that's my number 10 pick. Well, like I say, not in order, but that's my first pick.
First pick, yeah. So, I'll move on to my next pick, and it's probably it's very very similar to Good Kid, Mad City, in a way, but it's on here just because of a connection I have to the album. My second pick is Under Pressure by Logic. Like I said, very, very similar to Good Kid, Mad City in the terms of the storytelling, growing up in rough parts of America, and his even like to relationship that Kendrick has to this Shireen. Logic uses the metaphor of a female, of a girl called Nikki to represent his nicotine addiction at the time, and to be fair, it's obviously not as good as Good Kid, Mad City. Let's say that let's say that. But this was I'd say this was the first, like, one of the first albums that I was like, this is really, really, really good. Because it hasn't been long since I was, really, into like exploring music, I'd say. But this one just really does connect with me. I think it's his best project. And I think I mentioned on the podcast that we did before. Like I said, it's stylistically similar to Good Kid, Mad City, but not in a way where it's like just borderline copying.
Yeah,
it's still done to a very high standard, and I think. And yeah, it just resonates with me just because I'd listened to it before Good Kid, Mad City. I think if I listened to Kendrick's first,
it's kind of like
it's vice versa, isn't it?
Yeah.
But still some great songs on here. Driving Miss Daisy, done with Childish Gambino, All Right with Big Sean. You got Soul Food. You've got the title track as well, which is one of the best long form songs I've ever heard. So yeah man, really sick album.
Nice. I'll bring it back over. So I've decided I want to get all my like kind of strange, kind of, like not strange, but just a bit like where people go, really?
Just out there, yeah.
I'm going to try to get my out there picks out the way first. It's not too bad, really, but I've gone with Catfish and the Bottlemen's first album, The Balcony.
All right.
Now, and everyone kind of knows we all know Catfish. They're not the greatest band in the world by any means. They're a brilliant live band, and they're very good songwriters, but they've never been the most original band. And I think everyone kind of knows that. The thing with this album, however, it was like this album changed the way I kind of take music in. It was the album that made me go. Instead, it was the album that turned me from a fan of music into like, okay, I want to be a musician. It was that kind of album for me. I'd watch live videos of this band, like playing these songs, and I'd be like, fucking hell, I want to be Van McCann. And honestly, that's something that stuck with me, and I still, sometimes I do listen to him and I go, he's so cool. I've got a tattoo of this album cover on my leg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I got that at the start of the year. But no, it's just such a good album. Like, it's not really like an album, is it? It plays more like a playlist of just Catfish songs, as do all their albums. But I just think this is the purest form of Catfish, at least the purest, like, official form, because they'd done songs before that never were released. And if you listen to those, you'll kind of hear that. You'll go, this is very Catfish and the Bottlemen. But this is like the first, like the next step in that progression, where it's still the most pure thing that they've ever done that's been released. But it's just almost as good as those early days songs.
Well, when you say like the playlist thing, that's that's pretty funny because I've never actually listened to a Catfish record in full.
Yeah, exactly.
I've only listened to songs that have been compiled in a playlist, which to be fair is still quite a lot. But I mean, I guess I guess it goes to show how like easy their music is to get into, but at the same time how similar it is. So
the thing is as well, like Catfish were a band that it took me a lot of convincing to get into. Like I remember my sister was into way before me, and I remember her trying to get me on them, and me just refuting it. This was when I was in my emo phase still, and I was like, nah, this isn't it. And I think slowly I got into them like a couple of songs at a time, and they just, by the time I got to the end of their kind of discography, of the 22 songs that were out at the time, I was like, these are the best band in the world. And seeing them live really solidifies that as well. I think when you see Catfish live, you kind of just get it. And there's definitely there's bands that people say that about, that a lot of the time I think people are just bigging it up, or maybe just trying to convince their kind of opinions on you and force their opinions on you. But Catfish are genuinely one of those bands where you see them live, or you even see videos of them live, and you go, "That looks mint. I want to."
Yeah, they were very good.
And it's such a shame that they've gone out the way they have done. But we move. And do you know what? For the people that love Catfish, there's 33 Catfish songs on Spotify that you can go and listen to. Do you know what I mean? You can go and listen to them if you want to listen to them. I'm happy never hearing another Catfish at the Bottom of an album. They're my favourite band in the world. I don't need another album from them because they've got 33 amazing tracks I can go and listen to when I want. So that's why they're my second pick
Makes it content. I'll stay on the theme of a roguish pick. An album that again holds a lot in my heart. Big nostalgia booner for this one. I went for Roaring Twenties by Rizzle Kicks.
Oh, Rizzle Kicks.
This is now Rizzle Kicks was the first band that I ever saw live. I was 10 years old, I'm pretty sure. I went with my mum to Newcastle Academy, and I saw them. I've seen them twice actually. So once at the Academy, once at the City Hall, and yeah, I loved them when I was a youngster. Reference. Loved them when I was young. I still love them now. And again, this album, you know, take the nostalgia away from it. It's still a very, very solid album. Just like, you know, their chemistry is great on it. Consistent. You know, being a duo, you need to have good chemistry, and like, you know, compare to like the D Block Europe and A1 and G1. Obviously, not in the same like bracket and style of music. They're just all better than them. Like, no one is. I don't think any UK duo has came close to them.
When I think of like rap music at that time, or even just like urban music at that time, the first place my mind goes is like you go to N-Dub's Dizzy Rascal. I think Rizzle Kicks is like an underrated shout.
Rizzle Kicks are incredible. Like, mate, they are like the definition of the streets won't forget. Yeah, that's what it is. Like a seriously like underrated like back catalogue as well, because everyone remembers them from the hits like you know Down with the Trumpets, Mama Do the Hump, Lost Generation. When I was a youngster, everyone remembers them that. Like, you go through the albums though, and there's some serious bangers on there. You know, on this album especially, we've got a consistent like sort of old school boom bap sort of style on it. You know, loads of kick drums, old school beats. And even so, and like loads of like jazz elements, you know, they love their trumpets, but the jazz elements in this are great as well. But like some serious bangers. And it's an album you can just switch off and just have a great time with.
The weird thing with Rizzle Kicks, I think I just remember them. Like, I remember them more than I remember
as a group. When you remember the music,
yeah, I think I was kind of like. They were coming towards the end around the time where I was kind of getting a conscience developing into that. It was like, is it not like 2011, 2012?
Yeah, so it was 2013 they released this album, I'm pretty sure. And then they had a few more like singles release afterwards. Wow. I think they released like about 4 or 5 more singles after this album before we actually like officially split. And I think the last release was like 2016.
Because all I remember from Rizzle Kicks off the top of the dome is like Down with the Trumpets. They had another one, didn't they? What was it was like early Prototype Drill. They had a song that was like hard as anything.
Prototype Drill. Oh, let me check.
Well, not like
I don't know what you. I sort of took us off the
Not like Prototype Drill, but like the hardest thing they would have done. Mama Do the Hump.
Mama Do the Hump. Is that what you're on about? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, that is probably the one I'm thinking of. It's not like I say drill. I'm taking the piss, but like it was just the hardest kind of thing. It was the hardest thing I'd heard at the time. Do you know what I mean? I was like just 10 years old, like. But those are the main things I remember Rizzle Kicks for.
Oh, man. No, but the album's sick though, man. I've got a lot like this is the duo that should have made a comeback. Fuck N-Dubs. These need to be coming back. Just do like a UK Academy tour. Sell it out. Just nice little intimate packed venue.
If there's any time for it, 2023 is kind of the time for it. It seems like everyone's coming back this year. So
I would love to see it.
I'd be intrigued by the prospect. I wouldn't write it off.
Yeah.
In the current kind of climate of things.
I think just with them, they definitely have their different ventures. I know Jordan, the taller one, who does the main verses. I think he's got his own. He's a host of a show on Channel 4. I think it's called Don't Hate the Player.
Right.
I think he hosts that, and then I think Harley, the bloke who does a lot of the hooks and the choruses, I think he went into acting. I'm pretty sure. So I mean, they've obviously got their different ventures compared to N-Dubs, who were just trying to stay in music, and obviously that pockets are running dry, so we just went on a fucking reunion tour. So so I mean, they've not really got much reason to do it, but if they do have any reason to do it, it's the fact that they will pack out like a good few academies over the country. So
Yeah,
I'd
100%.
have so much time for that. I'd 100% get myself a couple of dates
The
on
thing
that.
is, as well, I reckon they come to the Ritz where I work, so I'd be on
Mm,
it. I'd be seeing it anyway. Do you know what I mean? I'd be getting paid to see that. So I
lush.
think they should go for it. My next pick, I've got. I've gone with Kanye West, College Dropout.
Hmm.
I think I hate to be the cliche guy that's like it's the best Kanye album. I do hate to be that guy, but I just think it's that trying to get it varied. I do think College Dropout is his like most varied album.
Yeah.
Uh, I think Donda is kind of similar in that regard. I think Donda's pretty varied. I just think that the College Dropout was a different time, and it probably is nostalgia goggles that are pulling that forward. But I just think there's so many different things he does on there, and I think in the way that that and Donda are both very like varied. They switch about a lot. They do a lot of different things. I just prefer the way that the College Dropout. Like, I prefer the attitude of the College Dropout. It's just a
Hmm.
lot more playful. You can tell like Kanye's having a good time on it. Everyone's having a good time on that record. You've got tracks like New Workout Plan, which just goes hard as anything. It's like a 5 minute like progressive rap like house tune by the end, like with Latin influences. You get like Jesus Walks, which is Jesus Walks. You've got like the almost prototype indie soul stuff with like All Falls Down. Um, it's just a sick album. It's just I think
Hmm.
everyone involved was just having a quality time, and it really reflects in that album. Um, and definitely as something like if I'm on the desert island, I'm going to be working out to new
Yeah.
workout.
New workout plan.
You know what I mean? Like,
Kanye's an artist that like I still need to like dive into if I ever get the
yeah,
time or really want to. He's never really been an artist that I've took much of an interest in. Again, I could not, and I could not tell you why, and I could not tell you why. Um, it's really just my own like naivety
yeah,
um, or just ignorance, I guess. Um, it's a weird one. I've not got really much to add on that.
yeah. I
Um,
think the
because
thing that
obviously,
I've
yeah, because I
so
respect that he's obviously a good artist, but
yeah,
yeah.
obviously it's a shame with everything that's going on with him at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's looking great at the minute. I
Oh,
don't think he's
it's not looking good, Brev.
sounding great at the minute. I just think more than anything, it's a shame.
No, it
For
is.
like someone that was actually the dog's bollocks.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was well, he still is probably the greatest to ever do it. There's a very high chance he's the greatest to ever do it, and I just think we could have probably squeezed another 5 to 10 years out of him.
Yeah,
Um, Obviously, not discounting anything that's gone on in the time since, but it just kind of makes you think, how did we get to this point?
that
More
is
than
true.
anything,
That is true.
how things changed so much. But I think the thing with like deep diving into Kanye, obviously you're saying you've not done it yet.
Yeah,
I think the thing that I noticed was that it wasn't all just one deep dive. I kind of had like a few moments of deep dive. I think I kind of started off around the Jesus album.
Jesus is King.
Jesus is King. So I must have started my first kind of dive around that period, and I was
Yep.
going through like the middle Kanye stuff. So that was like Yay. What are the other ones?
Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
Those two were the main ones. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I kind of delved into those three at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think it was when the documentary came out last year. I kind of went back to old OG Kanye, and I kind of found a love for that stuff.
I see.
I think of Kanye's albums, I've got a thing in my head that I like to call the banger to non-banger ratio, and it's like how many songs do I like on an album versus how many songs do I not care for.
Do I
I think of
dislike?
his albums, the College Dropout has like the highest banger to non-banger ratio,
I see.
so I think that's why it's my choice over like any of the other earlier
Aye.
Kanye's.
Aye.
It's just got bangers for days. I could listen to those songs endlessly.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll move on to my next pick. Next up for me, probably the most desert island fitting album I've got on here. I've went for "Call Me If You Get Lost" by Tyler the Creator.
Okay.
Before I get onto this, I'm just going to plug my charger in because my charger is very low on my laptop. And I plugged it in. I plugged it in I just didn't plug in my laptop. So,
Yeah.
uno momento. There we are. Crisis averted. He's so professional, ladies and gentlemen. He's so professional. You wouldn't think he's got his own podcast. So Tyler, creator, Call Me If You Get Lost. The Tyler discography is a very divisive one between fans. Mainly after his last 3 drops, being Flower Boy, Ego, and Call Me If You Get Lost. Big divide in the community over like which one is his best. I think this is his best. Personally, again, it might just be recency bias. But I mean, after listening to all 3, it's just like I just can't see it any other way. Like this is like an amazing return to form in the rapping sense of things. Especially when he went down in his with the last 2 albums, especially on Ego. And it's just like it is my perfect like sunshine album. Like it just makes me want to like fuck off onto a yacht that I can't afford and get to a place that I've never been to in my life. Like it's so summery, blissful. Like the bars, the production, just everything about it. Like
I've never been. Do you know what? Tyler's one that I've never delved into. I've watched a few video essays. I've delved in that way and kind of listened to bits and bobs here and there. But he's just never been for me. I'll tell you what though, one album that never heard. I've never heard anything from this new Tyler album. I don't know a single thing about it. So it's one that I'll probably have to give a spin in the new year.
It's definitely one for the summer months. When the sun's coming out and you're starting to wear shorts and all that stuff. Like
because for me, I've always found that Tyler has like good. There's moments of good songs here and there, but it's just a bit like over the top for me. I can't really get behind it. It's a bit there's not enough going on for me, but also there's too much going on for me at the same time.
He's always been like the oddball and he's always been the weird kid in the rap game. It's like I don't know if you've seen like that famous interview that he did when he got #1 over DJ Khaled, where Khaled came back out and said like, "Oh, we ain't playing your shit in the taxi in the barber shop." Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, I don't fucking care. Yeah, I got #1, bitch. Suck me dick." Like, yeah, it's like he doesn't give a shit. And like as a person, he's a very captivating artist as well. Like, he's hilarious. Obviously,
I love the Tyler interview. I've delved into like the interviews and it's like online videos. I love them a lot. I think the main thing is just I struggle to get behind. I think it's because I listen to Igor and there's moments on there where it's like Earthquake's a banger. There's a few more bangers on there, but as a whole, I just can't kind of commit to it. I feel like there's a lot going on. It's a bit like 21 Pilots in that sense that there's so much going on. And there's so much like to learn that it's just kind of a lot to commit to. So while there's great moments, I've not delved into it properly, but I think if this album, if you're saying it's like a more summery vibe, I think it's definitely worth giving a chance.
Yeah, like so many great like summery songs. Like the intro is brilliant. What's Your Name? There's like you've got Hot Wind Blows, Rise, like so many like summery songs, but you've got so many bangers on here as well. You can listen to like at any time, like Corso, Lemonhead with 42 Doug, Juggernaut with Pharrell Williams and Uzi. And like the features on this are sensational, by the way. Like you can tell that he just handpicks them and he gets the best out of artists. Like,
correct me if I'm wrong here. Was this one of those albums that kind of just dropped out of nowhere with no announcement?
Kind of. I'm not too sure because I wasn't really following the lead up to I wasn't really following it too closely to the lineup to the build. I think he dropped some like snippets and videos. I'm pretty sure it might have been after. I'm not too sure, but he released Lumberjack as a single, and I think that's it. So people knew it was coming, but it was just one single. That was it.
Just kind of went like.
Yeah. Before we move on to your next pick, I do want to ask: have you seen any of his interviews? Or no, not any interviews. The freestyles.
I don't think I have. Well, I might have done. Is it the ones where he's just dropping the
The
maddest vibe ever?
freestyles are the funniest. And like
I'm
it's
pretty sure I saw a video of him dropping some ridiculous bars.
yeah. Me and
Like,
Flex looking in the index for buff net just
yeah,
for some hard butt sex. Oh,
and you kind of see like like the radio guys just
yeah. It's
stood
like,
around
what
thinking, what?
you say that? There's
You kind of see
another
that, is it
there's
working?
another one where he goes fully a cappella, and it honestly is one of
Right,
the funniest things ever.
right.
I'll try and like find the I'll try and find where it's on just so you
I've
can watch it
seen,
after. Yeah,
yeah,
Sway's Universe,
'cause
Sway freestyle.
okay, so my number 4 pick now. Um, I've gone with a Pine Grove album. I'm not sure how well you know Pine
Pine
Grove.
Grove, never heard of him in my life.
So Pine Grove, the album's Cardinal. It's they're like a Midwest emo band.
Okay.
If you've ever listened to the Birthday Party by the 1975,
Yes.
that is very much the vibe. They
Right.
are literally name dropped in that song as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of that sort of vibe, mix of like Phoebe Bridgers, car seat headrest, that type of vibe.
Right.
It's just a very soothing album to listen to. It's similar to Tranquility Base in the sense that it's something that I'll whack on if I just want to like chill out, and it just calms me down. It's got these really nice melodies. There's just something about it that's like very nice. It's a very sweet album. It's very sincere and very earnest. And it's quite old now. I believe it came out like maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. But they've just done a new album as well, and it's kind of it's a bit louder. But I managed to see Pine Grove this year in Manchester, and it was one of the sickest gigs we did, just because it's so different to any other gig I've been to. Like the vibe was so completely different. There's not much moshing going on. Everyone's just kind of chilling out, vibing. And yeah, I just have a lot of respect for that. And I wanted to throw that in there to add again, like just another
bit of variety, yeah.
Just another layer to that variety, because I've kind of now got like a heavy album, a balls to the wall like indie record. I've gone with like Kanye's like early gangster rap record, and now I've gone in with Pine Grove Cardinal, which is more like a country emo record. So that's my number 4 pick.
I'm sort of like it's weird. I'm sort of like because I kind of want to like have some balance in here, but at the same time, I was just like, fuck it, let's put the shit that I enjoy on here.
Yeah.
I don't want to shoehorn myself. Yeah.
After that, now my list takes a turn, and you will.
I see.
Okay, right. This is the point where now we've got that variety out of the way, so now we're just going to like the fucking.
Just going to enjoyment, yeah.
I've still got like my 3 favorite albums of all time left.
All right.
And I've also got like just my go-to shit. So I'll pass over to you.
Nice one. Well, I'm going to move on to my my next pick. Now, this pick originally, I was gonna pick an Arctic Monkeys album. Right. However, like my opinion on Arctic Monkeys album flip flops so much. Okay. It's sort of hard for me to put one in. And I think with so many other albums I've already got on here, and in the case of balance,
they're so kind.
I was gonna put Tranquility Base in, but in the case of balance, I'm not gonna. Then I was like, right, do I want to put Favorite Worst Nightmare in here? And I'm thinking there's a couple of duds on here that I'll just skip over. So I'm not going to go for an Arctic Monkeys album at all. I'm going to go from completely different artists from a completely different genre. I'm going to pick my favourite album from this year, and that is going to be Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, the deluxe edition by Denzel Curry. Now, specifically the deluxe edition, because the normal album's fine. If he didn't release this album, it's still probably my favourite album of the year. But the deluxe is sensational. I mentioned it a bit in our podcast again. The cold-blooded soul. That's what it is. CBS. Cold-blooded soul versions of these songs that he does it's genuinely some of the most aesthetically pleasing music that I've listened to in a long time. It's like I'd never expect someone of like, this raw and raunchy nature of Denzel to be so in tune with just how his music can sound, and the fact that like he transformed all these songs into these like jazzy open mic night versions of them is truly brilliant. And like, I mean, again, with the theme, fitting on a desert island, like songs like the versions of like Walking, Troubles, X-Wing, and Angels, songs like that would just be a right vibe under the sun under a palm tree. But I mean, yeah, the whole album is brilliant. Again, it's one of my. I don't know if you've listened to it in the lead up to your top 10.
I haven't. I kind of very much went for the albums that were on my radar.
I see.
I don't think there were a few times where I kind of extended myself out of that and like noticed things that like afterwards and was like, okay, I need to get on this and get to this. But I think I've had like a list of albums all year, and it's only kind of grown as more albums have been announced that I'm aware of.
I see.
So it's very much just kind of the albums that are on my radar, like in our scene. So while it isn't too diverse, there's moments in there because obviously we're talking about like H a lot, Kanye a lot, Kendrick a lot. So there's moments of diversity in there, but a lot of that list is just very much the same old
rock centric. Yeah. No, I get you on that. Yeah, but I mean, it was, to be fair, even it was stepping away from what I normally go for. To be fair, because again, like Denzel, he was someone that I'd heard of, but not really. Again, like dove into his back catalogue.
New bits on Parade cover, and now that tune that he does, What the Sidemen used to use in all their videos. Those are the only two. That's all I know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really really nice surprise for me to go into this. Like, it was someone that I wasn't expecting at all from him to drop just such a brilliant album.
In fact, while I bring it up, I'll ask you about this quickly. Sidemen are on track for a Christmas #1.
Oh yeah.
What's your opinion?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, it's better than that fucking Lad Baby shit, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'd rather have these having a like an actual laugh about it, rather than Lad Baby trying to be serious and talking about people in like food banks, poverty, and the cost of living crisis, but still shoehorning sausage rolls into his lyrics. Like, mate, it's so incredibly tone deaf. It's like it's bad.
I think the main thing about the Sidemen stuff is of the tracks that they did, because they made 2 tracks.
Yeah.
Of the 2 tracks they made, I would have preferred the other one to have gone into the charts, because I think that would have been a bit more kind of like this ridiculous.
That would have been like, God, hate to compare it, but that would have been like on a similar level to when Rage got the Christmas #1.
Yeah, no, because I think I live for that obscurity and just
because like obviously it's not on a musical level, but
that would have been like this huge thing. It would have felt like an achievement. Whereas I feel like the one that's gone in, it's kind of just a KSI song. It's kind of just a KSI.
It's a KSI and JME song, yeah, isn't it?
KSI and JME with a couple of the Sidemen featured, so it's like an actual song. So well, it's cool and all. It's not like it's not on the level as if like we had Capital Extra on Capital Radio playing Rota Shaw talking about Santa kidnapping. Like, you just couldn't have written that. I think that would have been.
That would have been amazing, man.
It would have made for some brilliant laughs. But I'll let you carry on.
Yeah. No. I think that's too far. I probably covered all I wanted, but I would love to see the outrage on that. Would be amazing, man. Like, people would hate it, and I'd live for that. But what's your next pick, bud?
My next pick. So speaking of Arctic Monkeys, I've gone with the greatest Arctic Monkeys record, objectively, and that wins any argument. As soon as you say objectively, like, no one can argue. I've gone with Humbug, which is, in my opinion, an extremely underrated album.
Okay.
People don't realise. The thing that I noticed with Humbug is people rate Humbug, but they don't realise how much they rate it until they see the track list.
Yeah.
If I put a Humbug, like my best mate Finn, if I put a Humbug track list, he'd never pull up Humbug as his favourite Monkeys album. If I put a Humbug track list in front of him and let him read through that, he's going to go, well, that's a banger. Do you know what I mean? But no one kind of thinks of it. But I'm coming out here to spread the Humbug love. Because this wouldn't have made my list. Was it so like rated properly? But because it's underrated, I felt like
I needed
to preach the good words of Alex Turner, and obviously Christmas is coming up, so I thought it fits with the theme, humbug. But no, just banger after banger. This album, like you can't start an album with My Propeller and then Crying Lightning and it not just be like ridiculously like.
To be fair, looking at there's a considerable amount of heat on here.
Is All My Own Stunts on?
That's Something in C.
I'm trying to think what songs are on there. You've got
Potion Approaching, Cornerstone, Pretty Visitors,
Animals. Cornerstone speaks for itself. Cornerstone's
like top 3 for me. Monkey songs of all time.
Yeah, top 5 of these Monkey songs ever. Is Secret Door on there?
Yes.
The ending of Secret Door is like just masterful. Like that, the Bulls on Parade reference, especially. Do you know what as well? Dance Little Liar and Pretty Visitors. 2 straight bangers, one after the other.
Pretty Visitors is a great one. Yeah.
Even the Fire and the Thud, which is like one of the most forgettable Monkeys tracks ever. When you get it on, it's a bit of a floating bop.
Yeah, this is like.
I think this album has one shitter on it, and it's The Jeweler's Hands. I think that's the only shitter on the album. But you've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You got 9 there.
You've got 9 bangers. And I don't just mean like 9 like average songs. I mean like 9 out of 10s at least.
And you got a good few like all timers on there, like being Crying Lightning, Pretty Visitors, and Cornerstone.
There's a chance Crying Lightning's in my top 10 songs ever. There's a very there's a chance I forget about it, and then every now and then I'll have a phase of remembering how good Crying Lightning is. I'm like, this is phenomenal. And I think seeing it live as well was just another moment that solidified that I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. So that's why Humbug's in there for me. So
I can't wait to see him again now. Fucking hell, you've really got us excited.
God,
I forget. I was like, when you said seeing it live, I'm like, oh God, I did see it live. I'm not going to see it again. I'm like, oh, I'm going to see him in June. Yes.
You know what? I'm still trying to suck your tickets, and I keep seeing the resale price. And I swear on Ticketmaster resale, every time I've ever gone to resell a ticket, I get hit with a notification that's like, you can't resell it for more than its original price.
Yeah.
So how am I seeing resale tickets up for like 100 quid? Like over 100 quid? So is it just me that's not allowed to sell them for more?
Yeah. Get on. There's a few like bot accounts for like Twickets that send you notification that like just tweet out whenever like any new ticket goes up. And I was trying to get PS Avail tickets, and I left the notifications on. I just have notifications on, and to be fair, it absolutely flood your phone, mine. But I was seeing a couple of Monkeys ones come up for like the Emirates and all that, so I'd get on that like closer to the date, or just even now if you're trying to find them.
Actually, that's the one that I'm looking at. We've just got tickets to Blossoms in Millennium Square. I did Foals last year in Millennium Square, and it was such a good vibe. I was like, I want to do one of the ones this year, so we decided Blossoms was the one to do. So now that's all paid for. The next aim is Arctic Monkeys and potentially Paramore, but those are looking hard to get the Paramore one. So
whose go is it? Is it mine or yours?
It is yours.
It's mine, isn't it? Where do we go to next? Ooh, you know what? I'll go with this one. My next pick, in my opinion, the best, one of the most influential, impactful, and timeless UK rap albums of all time. I've went for Konnichiwa by Skepta.
Oh, that's not where I thought that was going, but that's
the GOAT GOAT, and that is full stop right there.
That's a shout,
and that's all I'm going to say. There is not many people who are able to overtake his legacy. I genuinely believe Dave is the only one who can do that.
I didn't think that's not where I thought you were going with that. I thought you were going to go down the route of Gang Signs and Prayer. So,
you know what? Still very good. Still very, very good album.
Shocker, but what have we got on Konnichiwa? You've got That's Not Me.
Konnichiwa, right? I've got this in my notes, mate. The 3-song run of Man, Shutdown, and That's Not Me is one of the hardest 3-song runs you will find on any album.
And then That's Not Me. What? Because then you got was it the same year that we got Man Don't Care?
What? When this album released?
Yeah, was it the same year that Man Don't Care came out?
What, Man Don't Care? It might have been, you know.
Oh no, Man Don't You Care was the year before, so that was like setting the stage.
Aye. But
those three tunes to me like kind of go hand in hand. I think like grime that's not Stormzy or Dave, the three that immediately I think of are like Shut Down Man, Don't Care.
Well, this is, I mean, even like Dave is like, you could say he stepped away from grime almost, especially on the new stuff.
Yeah,
he's definitely more in his own wave now.
Yeah. My mum was listening to the new Stormzy record, and she came out and she was like, "You know what? This sounds like Boys to Men." Does the new Stormzy record? I was like, "Fair enough, big shout."
Mate.
But no, like when you think of like iconic grime that's not Stormzy or Dave, I think those two tunes specifically are the two that I go to.
Yeah, well, I think like Skep was like these albums like with Skep and Kano's albums that released at this time. So Kano dropped Made of a Manor same year as well. These were like the last of a dying breed of true grime artists.
Yeah, it was.
I'd say it's a shame because it's a genre that has just fell off a cliff and is sort of went back into obscurity, especially with like the pop drill stuff that's been coming out recently, and just even normal drill stuff. That's took center stage in the UK scene now. And even then, that you've got the indie UK rap scene with, Slow Tie, Lil Corner, Simbi as well. All amazing in their own right, but still don't get applauded what they deserve, in my opinion at least. And I feel like this one was it's really a stamp on the UK scene. Like, if anyone was to ask me like what would you say as quintessential UK rap, like if someone's never listened to UK rap before, they want to get into it, this is the album I'd direct them to.
Those are like the first tunes that, like those two tunes. I know I keep going back to grime, but like when you think of like grime, it's those two. Shut Down, man. For me, it's those two. It's Shut Down. It's Man Don't Care, and those are the four tunes. And then nothing ever comes into that. Nothing ever leaves it.
I think even straying away from that, like some of the deeper cuts on here, like Man isn't a deep cut by any means in my eyes, but it's incredibly hard. One of my favorite Skepta songs of all time. You've got Corn on the Curb as well. It Ain't Safe featuring ASAP Bari, who he did some mad shit to be fair, but still you got a Pharrell feature on here as well. Like people say like, oh, Central C's crossing over and shit. He was the first one to do it, bro. Skep had Pharrell on his record. He had the Pharrell co-sign and he had the Drake co-sign at this time. You know how mad that is. How mad that is, man. Like he is the GOAT.
I was the Brit Awards with Kanye when he brought them all out.
Man.
Come on. That was a big moment. And I think Skepta was like the one who set that up as well. If I'm correct.
And just got all the BBK and the subsidiary members involved.
So wait, how many picks have you got left? Have you got 4 or have you got 5?
So I've had I think it's so Rizzle Kicks, Skep, Denzel, Call Me If You Get Lost, Under Pressure. I've got 4 left.
Right, okay, so I'm in the back half now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll give you, I don't know whether to go with the first of my 2 live albums.
Oh, you got 2 live albums on here. Wow.
Or to give you the first of like my 3 favourite albums ever.
Give us a live album.
Give you a live album.
Give us a live.
Okay. So, I don't know how familiar you are, but I've gone with U2. I've gone with Under a Blood Red Sky. Like I said, don't know how familiar you are.
No, man. I mean,
melody,
but, again, I know of U2. It's not a band that I've really
8 tracks. It's short and sweet. 8 tracks. I think it's U2 at their best. It's the best set list they could have done. It's just phenomenal. So it's split into 2 halves. And the first half is very like balls to the wall rock and roll, and then the second half's a bit more like Bono kind of doing the Bono thing.
Yeah.
But that first half that's like very just balls to the wall, full throttle rock and roll, is one of the best like 20 minutes of music like but in one go that I think I've ever heard, because it all, so it's not even all from the same performance, but it all blends into each other anyway. And I just think that's nuts. But you've got like Party Girls on there, this is like one of the only recordings of. It's not even, there's not an official release of that song. You've got like a ridiculous version of the Electric Co. Sunday Bloody Sunday's on there, probably the greatest track on the album.
Yeah.
And I think the reason this holds up so much for me, it's just it's a big one for me. It's like it's one of my mum's favorite albums ever. It's the only one of these that we would share, and me and my mum. And I think my mum showing me this album like properly and really talking about this album was the first time I kind of realised that my mum's actually cool. Do you know what I mean? It was one of them, it's like my mum's like none of my
Yeah.
family are musical, but my mum's got like a big playlist in her car. So it
I
made
see.
me 400 hours of just non-stop music, but it's all
wow.
just it's the wildest variety of stuff ever. It'll go from like Meatloaf to like 22 by Taylor Swift, and then you'll be listening to, I don't know, like Sean Paul, and then the next song will be like Guns N' Roses, November 8.
The
So
duality of moms, eh?
yeah, that's the vibe that we're on. But this was the first time where I really delved into any of my mum's music, and it was like I was like,
Yeah.
actually, you know what, you were cool back in the day. I was like, wow, like I was actually, and I think this album like kind of started the thing of me and my mum talking to each other about music a lot more. It brought us a lot closer,
That's
and it
nice.
just kind of like now it was the first time where it's like now every time I'm with my mum, all we're doing is talking about music or just watching a film together. There's never any drama. There's never any like telling off or anything. It's just we watch a film or we'll listen to some music together. And I think this is the album where I kind of really started to appreciate that. So that's why that's in there for me.
Lush, man. I've got a similar one of those lined up. I'm going to say that for my last pick because I think after reconsideration, I think that probably was my favourite album of all time. So that's going to get left till the end. My next pick, I'm going to give you. Let's go with this one. The heaviest album on my list. I went for Post-Human Survival Horror by Bring Me the Horizon.
Big.
Yeah. So again, this is my gateway to metal music. And it's something that Skepta was my gateway really to grime music. In the sense of that album, Post-Human Survival Horror is my gateway to metal music. Like actually enjoying it because, like it was a very very weird. Like growing up, I was weirdly connected to slight bits of metal music because there's a guy on YouTube that I watched when I was younger. A little anecdote here. There's a guy on YouTube that I watched called Nate Wants to Battle, who was a Pokemon YouTuber, but also did music on the side. And is now into a lot more of just like general doing music. And he did a lot of nerdcore raps, sort of songs about video games and being a young 12-year-old 13-year-old kid, listen to a lot of that, and he ended up and he did a lot of metal and rock covers as well. I remember he did a cover of Ignorance by Paramore, which got me into that song. He did a few Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy covers, and now in his back catalogue he's got 2 full cover albums and 2 full original just rock albums as well that aren't nerdcore. It's just actual rock albums that are honestly really fucking good for YouTube, like for YouTube music. I don't really consider it because I wouldn't even say he's a YouTuber anymore. He's just a musician. But that was sort of like my first real introduction. But I'd say like the real, nail on the coffin for it was Post-Human Survival Horror back in 2020. First came across this when I saw that Youngblood was featuring on Obey. Because I still sound a slight fan of Youngblood. I mean, new albums. We're not going to talk about that one. And I still think this is like his best performance on a track. Like, why can't you just see that like his strengths are in the heavier and more upbeat shit? What were you going to say?
I would say that's his best performance on the track. It's probably top 3. I do think his new album, while it's still crap and it's still like a 4 out of 10 at best. I do think it's his best album, and I think there's 1 or 2 performances on there where I go, okay, maybe that's probably his best. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as the MGK record, but I definitely can see. I think the flaws are more obvious with the Youngblood record. It's just the MGK record is actually like
it's significantly bad. Yes, it's overtly bad.
It's just the flaws of the Youngblood album are like really obvious. And I was writing about the Youngblood album today. I was working on top 10 worst songs of the year. There's a little bit of inside knowledge, and Youngblood was on there. And I got listening to the song that I'd posed, and I was like, okay, this is bad. And I think I need to reassess this whole album, because there were things that like you don't notice on there that I just can't get away from. But
Mm-hmm.
as well, Bring Me the Horizon were another one that were on that list. So I kind of write about them both bad. But the thing I've
Yeah.
noticed about Bring Me is a lot of the times with their bad songs, they carry those songs because their sound just kind of worked. And I think Posthuman was the first kind of instance of them going, okay, we'll bring our sound to whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind of really showed off how well that
Mm-hmm.
works for them.
Well, again, it was sort of like a return to the heavier side of Bring Me, because I mean this goes way heavier
The way I
what Ammo does.
I remember the way I described this when it came out to try and get people to listen to it was like, it is literally just the best of Bring Me condensed down into one like really short package.
Yeah.
Like, everything they do well. So even the poppy stuff that they do, like the
Yeah.
best of that stuff is kind of, you see that on this album, and you see the best of the slower stuff on this album, but you also get that really good, really heavy, like over the top shit that
Mm-hmm.
they kill. And
Yeah,
I
man,
think
like you said.
it was the maddest thing to me about this album is how like like it's their most recent album, and in my opinion, it's my favorite album.
Mm.
But in the time since, they've made so many bizarre decisions that I now can't look at this album the same. I kind of go, there's just something about it where I can't say that they've been good recently, even though their most recent album is amazing.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because
It's
they
weird.
haven't been good recently. If anything, they've been like actively not good recently.
Mm.
But this album is like 100% their best work, and
Yeah, man.
I think because of all the stuff with them recently, I think the new album, I've had to really kind of remind myself how good that album is,
Mm-hmm.
because I developed an obsession when that album came out.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there was a lot of like pop, there's a good few pop sensibilities in this, mainly with the hooks. A lot of similarities to Linkin Park across it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and again, it just goes incredibly hard, man. Like I said, Obey, like, but Kingslayer, man.
I think I don't
Um,
think there are any shitters on there.
there's
I
not,
genuinely,
there's not really. I mean,
I think,
the songs that I obviously prefer to others, but
yeah,
there's
I think
just
there's maybe
banger after banger after
there's an
banger.
instrumental on there, like an interlude that I think could have just been an extended intro.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it being like its own track. As with a lot of albums, have that kind of same problem that the interludes shouldn't really be interludes; they should
Yeah.
just kind of exist. But I think that's the worst this album ever gets. Is just
Yeah, that's
like,
fair.
I think the worst this album ever gets is like, its biggest crime is its track list. I think more than anything, but
It
I
just
think
needs to be longer. It just needs to be longer.
not even necessarily that. They should have just either done a full album or just have like taken it down from that 9 tracks to 8, and they could have just like stopped it, like left out that split, and I think that would have
Yeah.
solved it a lot.
Mm-hmm. What's your next pick, bud?
My next pick, right? I'll go for one of my favorites ever. Now, this could have gone two ways because they're very similar albums. The albums that I'm about to pose to you, and I think people would be surprised when I pose this idea. So the two albums that I was like putting up against each other, it was Dua Lipa's Future Nostalgia versus Two Door Cinema Club with Game Show.
All right.
But simply, like, if you ask me my top 3 favorite albums, Game Show by Two Door is always in there, because this was another one when it wasn't even when it came out. It was like a few years later. It was prior to the album, after this. So you've got Game Show and then you've got False Alarm. In the lead up to False Alarm, I developed like a inhumane obsession with Game Show.
Aye.
But I'm not just going with Game Show. I'm going with the extended edition, because there's some bonus tracks on there that I think are some of the best tracks on there if they were on the actual thing. A track called Gasoline, which the sound of it is just phenomenal. I'm not sure about the mixing on there. I'm not sure whether it's purposely mixed like that or if it's just like classic bonus track mixing, when there's a bit less effort on it. But the sound of this album and the attitude on this album and like just everything about it, I just adore. Is track after track, because each track brings something new to the table, but they've kind of got this same sound that ties it all together, and it's this lovely like 80s Daft Punk sort of vibe. It's very disco, and it kind of set the stage for future Two Door albums in a way. But I just don't think the ones that followed it up are as good. I don't think there's as much effort,
Alright.
and I think
Yeah.
it kind of they set Game Show up, and Game Show was their home run. It's their goated album, and then the tracks, and then the albums after, while they're fine, they're just, I don't think anything could live up to it.
Aye.
The albums after it, they try to do Game Show again, but like progress it, but it just comes off as like a cheesier Saturday morning cartoon version of Game Show. So it just seems like it's almost like a parody of Game Show. But I think that album's phenomenal. Like, I'm not sure how familiar you are with it. I think
Yeah, I mean, like Two Door, like Catfish are another band that I've never actually listened to a full project by. But there'd be a band that I'd be more willing to listen to a full Catfish band than Catfish, just because they come off as a more interesting band.
I think Two Door is like,
yeah.
I think a lot of the time, like the obvious go-to, like best album pick for Two Door is their first, because everyone knows their first album. It's What You Know, Undercover Mind. Everyone knows those songs. Like, their indie classics is that first album. It's just full of indie classics. But I think if you compare them, if you look at like the trajectory of where they were, I think having those two first albums and then battling the drug addictions and all the stuff that they dealt with, going away they went away for a few years, and they came back. They went away as like this indie pop band, and they came back as this disco, this insanely sick disco like electronica band that were like influences of Daft Punk, and they've got like the attitude of like the more recent Arctic Monkeys stuff. I just think it's a recipe that just works so well. It's got some of their best tracks ever on there. Are We Ready? You might know.
I do know that song. That's the only one I know from it.
On there. There's also a great song on. It's just full of great songs. Ordinary's great. You got the title track, which is like a balls to the wall, like rock and roll song. It's kind of reminiscent of Foals. Like I said, you've also got like bonus tracks like Gasoline. You've got like Lavender, which is when the album takes the time to slow down for a bit. Let me try and find the track list. I've also got Fever, and Javien's de la, where his falsetto comes through, like through the whole song, and it's he has this insane falsetto that I'm just like, how are you even managing that? Like, you don't sound like a bloke. It sounds like they've pulled a girl into the band for a bit, and they've genuinely not. It's just hit after hit, and it's so well produced. It's like everything sounds so crisp and so shiny and so neon that I just think like it's honestly like one of the maddest listening experiences. If you have like 45 minutes to an hour, that album is phenomenal. And I
could definitely get into it,
because everyone knows about Two Door, but I think people like whenever I say to people like Game Show by Two Door, they go, "Oh, what album's that? What songs has that got on it?" Like, people don't know that album enough, and I feel like it's another one where I've got to go get on Game Show, because that's love it.
First, I'll shift on to mine. Last three we're up to now. Number 9 for me, I'm gonna go for Beer Bongs and Bentleys by Post Malone. Post again, album an artist that I've had a lot of time with, listened to extensively over the past, say, like 4 or 5 years now. And this is his best album. I don't care what you say. Fuck your Stoney. This is his best, 100%. And it still feels like a little bit underrated, because it has some of his most like underrated tunes on this one. I think like, you got Sugar Ray, Other Side, Blame It on Me, which I just think no one talks about. And there's just
when I think of like 2016, it was 2016, wasn't it?
2017 was 2017 was Stoney. 2018 was Beer Bongs and Bentleys.
Was it 2018? Okay, so when I think of 2018, that's one of the defining kind of albums for me. I haven't even listened to it in full, and I don't know that much about Post. Really? I just remember I must have been in like year 10 or 11 at the time, and I just remember Post like being everywhere. We used to have a TV in like the dinner hall of our school. and they would play like whatever the music channels were at the time, and
Hi.
every single day without fail, Better Now was on there. Every single day without fail, you get congratulations. So it kind of soundtracked a lot of like my year 10 and 11 dinner times sort of thing. So it is like, it's moments like that where you're like getting to know people and you're making those first kind of connections as a
Yeah.
teenager, and like year 10 and 11, it's like such an important time. And I think those kind of the songs that soundtrack that period, whether I kind of appreciate them or not, they were like big for me. I look at Dua Lipa the same way. Like I remember, is it Be the One, Electricity,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Calvin Harris track? Is it Last Dance?
One Kiss.
One Kiss. Those tunes were all that kind of period of time. And I just kind of look back. Whenever I hear those tunes, I just sort of think of that summer of being in like year 10 and 11 and just living it up with the boys. But
Fairs, man.
Post is an artist that I definitely appreciate, and I can
Yeah.
understand the hype. It's just I've genuinely never had the time to go into it.
Yeah. I've always been like a big fan of him since this album. Like I listened to this album extensively on release. Like I said, I mean some of his most underrated tracks on there, like Sugar is one of my favourite ones from him. It's got Stay on it, obviously. Psycho, Rockstar, Better Now being the more popular ones. And like even like going into his deeper catalog, like, I still love his new stuff. Like I've really liked Hollywood's Bleeding. I don't think that got the respect it deserves. And even 12 Carat Toothpick, I thought was a pretty solid album. Especially like, you can tell the fact that he made it for himself. He didn't want to do anything that anyone told him that he should have done for this album. Like
Yeah.
I think he went his own way for it, and I think that's pretty evident in the music. So I mean, yeah, again, like an artist that I've just got loads of time for, and I have given a lot of time to, and yeah, definitely one of your favorites, man. What's your next pick then?
So my next pick, this is my second live album. I've gone with Biffy Clyro, but I've gone with their Revolutions at Wembley album.
Very good show.
The reason I've gone for that is because like Biffy are my favorite band ever, man. And I think this album goes up to the point. Like, I'm not one of these people that think new Biffy is trash or anything. Like, I love their new stuff.
Yeah.
But this album this live album came out at the perfect time where it's got, like, the whole thing is back-to-back hits. But it's not got all of Biffy's hits. So you get to the end of it and you go, oh, now I want to go listen to everything beyond that point. Because this was like, what, 2010, 2011. So you only get up to like those hits. So you don't have any like Wolves of Winter. You don't have Friends and Enemies. You don't have any of these songs. So it's kind of one in there that you go. You get all the bangers, but then you can then go beyond that after it's finished. I think.
What's actually on that? Because obviously I know like the time frame is there, and I might have heard some of the live versions of that.
So you get,
like what the deeper cuts? What's in there?
Yeah, so it starts off, you get the Captain, Boom Blast and Ruin, 57, Bubbles, Born on a Horse, God and Satan, Horses, Golden Rule, Living's a Problem because everything dies, Shock, Falling Stars, Machines, Who's Got a Match, Saturday Superhouse, Many of Horror, Glitter and Trauma, and then Mountains. So it's like, the whole thing is just bangers after bangers.
Yeah.
But there's just, it goes up to the point where you can continue, and that's not the whole listen over. Like, you get to the end of the album and you go, okay, now on to opposites, now on to do you know what I mean? You get to the end and you can carry on with it.
I hear you.
I think Biffy are phenomenal, and I think this album, this live album, there's a couple of tracks on here where I see them as like the definitive version of the track. So Machines, for instance, like I'll take Machines live at Wembley over Machines any day of the week. I think
normally.
I think it's like the definitive version.
Live, it's an amazing song, man. It's so beautiful.
I've seen Biffy 3 times live, and all 3 times when they've played Machines, I have bawled my eyes out. And I'm not afraid to come clean and say that. You. And do you know what? The first time I saw them, I hadn't even heard Machines at that point. So I was like going home, I was like, what is this tune that's just made me absolutely break down? But I just had to throw some Biffy love on here, and there's no way I could have put like a specific album on for sake of leaving out any others. So I think
That's
this
fair.
live album was the perfect way of
Yeah.
doing that.
To be fair, Only Revolutions probably sneaks into my honorable mentions, just for
Yeah.
studio version. But no, man, it's stupendous band. I'd need to see them again. I was debating whether to go and see them in Leeds on the date they just did, but it was literally a day after Kendrick, and I'd already booked a good few Saturdays off work like the
Yeah.
next month, and working in hospitality, mate. If you're booking that many Saturdays off, bro, it's
Yeah.
you're getting silently judged by by our
But,
workmates. I'll tell you that for free.
we went up to Glasgow to see Biffy. We were like,
Yeah,
if we're going to go see Biffy at the end of the year, let's
let's
indulge
get
in
the real experience.
it. So we went up to Glasgow, and it was one of the best gig experiences of my life. We saw Kasabian the night before, also in Glasgow.
Oh my.
And I think the atmosphere at the Kasabian one just took it, which is mad for me to say. But I've seen Kasabian now 6 times, and I think that of the 6, that was easily the best. But I just think like you can't go wrong with Biffy live. I saw him at Download, saw him at Leeds in 2021. It's just they're phenomenal every single time, and their set list is always changing as well.
Yeah. I mean, it helps because they've had like 2 albums out recently since live music come back.
The songs that are always going to be in there, but I love hearing like what the additional stuff's going to be.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the day I get to see them do different people, because I think that's my life complete. That's the one
Biffy,
thing.
I'll tell you what, right? We had one. A Biffy song is one that I'd weirdly want to do on karaoke. There's a place that I go to in Leeds with mates that does karaoke on a Thursdays, and the thing that they use, they have a document. Like the guys that set up the karaoke, we have like a document on their Instagram page which has like 72 pages of songs that you can do on here. Like, there's a lot of fucking songs, and there's like I think it's 57 and the captain. Oh no, it's Vakul and Rule 57 and the captain that are on there, and I'll need to learn the words completely because I would want to do one of them if we ever go back and have a karaoke night. I'll need to do that. Yeah, I'll hop onto my next pick. I'm just going to scroll up. If you couldn't tell, the change of scenery.
We're down to the
by the
last
way, guys.
two.
Last 2, I know.
Last.
To be fair, quite fitting because these might be my top 2 of all time. Second one I'd have to have some thought on, but it's definitely up there. A certain top 5. My number 9 pick, my second to last pick, is An Evening with Silk Sonic by Silk Sonic.
That's very recent.
It's very, very recent. It's very recent, but it's also a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
This is like it's like a soul funk fusion dance between 2 masters of their craft. Like, Bruno Mars is a relatively hit or miss with some of his music. Well, like when he's in his bag, absolutely adore him. When he's doing solo sappy shit, it's still decent, but it's not my favorite. But when he's doing, every single style on this he nails. Like his vocals, amazing. Andy's flows and the drumming is excellent on this. Just the storytelling is even underrated on this. Like it's literally just going through, just going through it all. You know, from meeting this girl, falling in love, falling out of love, you know, wondering like why the fuck love exists, to spending all your money in a casino to forget about love, and then finding a new love interest and tripping your tits on drugs by the end of it on Blast Off. Which, I mean, After Last Night and Blast Off have 2 of the most mesmerizing electric guitar solos. That, like, just honestly, it's like it could make us levitate. Just how just across this album, it keeps to a superb, consistent theme, and I get the 80s pastiche revival stuff has been done to death by now. But like, God, they do it just so perfectly. They do it so perfectly, and I'd never think that these 2 could like captivate me in that sort of way.
I'm looking at the track list now, and it's just there's talent all over it. You've got like Thundercats on this album. You've got,
No,
I
man.
think the tunes that definitely stand out to me, Smoking Out the Window. Everyone knows Smoking Out the Window.
It's a certified hood classic. Yeah.
It is a certified hood classic indeed. But I think Skate is the other one that stands out to me a lot
Skate's
on
a
that
lovely
album.
tune as well. Like people like after the album got released, like people like were normally saying that like that's their least favorite. But
It was,
it really is like it's. I mean, to be fair, it's probably like worst of an amazing bunch.
mm,
I mean,
Skate,
but to be fair, when the vibe's right, it's a great song as well.
yeah, Skate and what else? Fly As Me. That's pretty good.
Fly As Me's a belter, man. Just
Uh,
like Fly As Me and 777 are two songs that I will always listen to before a night out. If I
yeah,
want to get in the mood and
but
just like
I think it's one of them where it's so well done, and it's like you can talk about how it's done to death or whatever, but like
yeah,
it quality will always uh,
prevail.
be better. Like quality will always be more of a thing than quantity. I think every cunt in the world could make an indie album, but not every cunt in the world could make a great indie album. That's the way that I see it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, great pick, great pick.
Honestly, man,
I,
like it's a true like this will be looked down as one of the by the end of a decade. This will be like I'd be surprised if this like isn't in a lot of like top tens of the decade.
yeah,
Genuine, I'm confident in saying that because I think it was my favorite of last year. Probably would have been my favorite of this year if it got released again. Yeah, man, it's just it's phenomenal. What's your last?
so
What's your
my
second
number
last pick?
two is actually kind of similar.
Hmm.
It's as different as you can get while still being kind of like a similar vibe. Um, very much like still in with the 80s pastiche kind of stuff.
Aye,
I've gone with Blossom's self-titled.
all right.
I know you're not like too
Yeah,
well with
yeah.
Blossom,
Still not there yet, but
but this is
it's
like
time.
this is very much Blossoms in their purest form. I think I said in the podcast we did of top 10 songs of the year, we got talking about Blossoms, and this first Blossoms album is them in their purest form. It's
Hmm.
every song's a banger. There's not a single miss on here. I think it's the only Blossoms album where there isn't a single miss. And I just think it's a young band that it's a promising young band that at the core of it. That's all you can put it down to. But it's
Aye,
if you watch back some of the live performances from around this time, there's just something about them where you go, they look top. Like
V's
uh,
are on it. Yeah.
they're they're great lads. This was it, like this came out when we were just like kind of getting out of the Tumblr era of like indie
Really?
bands.
Is that early?
So this was 2016. So this is
Wow.
just as Tumblr's dying.
I was like 2018. It's like, well,
No,
I'm
no.
not
So
in
this
tune.
is 2016, just as Tumblr's kind of dying out. But it's around that time where Catfish and the Bottlemen are massive.
Yeah,
1975 put out I Like It When You Sleep.
because yeah, because I was gonna say 1975 dropped. Were Catfish on their second album by
Catfish
this point?
released their second album that year.
Yeah.
1975 released their second album that year. Halsey was popping off that year. It
Hmm.
was very much like a big year for those kind of Tumblr artists.
Did Haim? I think Haim released an album around then as well. I
Quite
want to say.
possibly
I think they were popping as well.
Circa Wave started out around this
Yeah.
time as well, and so did Sundara Khan and stuff like that.
Wombats had just released a past year
Yeah, exactly.
as
So
well.
this was like all those bands that kind of had the Tumblr backing. This was kind of like I always talk about like 2015 and 2017 being the best years for indie music, and I think Blossoms is just another one of those like pure amazing indie albums that came
Aye.
out in that time period. Same with The Balcony by Catfish, and same with my number one pick, which I'll get onto. But
Fair
no,
enough.
this just has banger after banger. The singles are phenomenal. Honey Sweet is probably one of my greatest songs ever.
Honey's a good song.
Getaway is probably in my top 20 songs ever. There's deeper cuts like Texia on here where when they used to do it, they don't play it live anymore. I remember back in the day when they did, they used to go from what ABBA song was it? Is it Money, 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 Money? They used to play like an intro of Money, Money, Money and then go into Texia. And that's how they do it at a live show, and it just used to go
Hmm.
used to be nuts.
I can imagine that would go. I can imagine that would go hard. To be fair,
Yeah, they've got
obviously never heard the song in my life, but
of 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 their 4 slow songs, they've got their second best slow song on this album as well. My favorite Room sounds ripped straight off of like an Oasis album.
yeah,
It's like kind of interchangeable with tunes like Bonehead's Bank Holiday.
right,
But yeah, carry on. That's my number 2.
right. Oh, so into my number one. This is like the sort of what you were on about with U2. This is sort of my U2 pick essentially.
Oh, yeah.
The music of my childhood is a thing that resonates with me a lot. Listening to stuff in the car, all of that stuff. On my dad's side, it was a lot of Britpop, so Blur, a lot of the Ramones, punk rock sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. I know with my mum, was a lot of the Beatles, was a lot of Lily Allen, and it was a lot of this woman. My number one pick is Back to Black by Amy Winehouse.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, as far as albums go, it's like it's basically perfection. It probably is. I mean, where do you start? I mean, to be fair, you probably just start with her as a person. I mean, taken from us way too soon for one. A lady who had just so many more years in the spotlight, most likely, and just, I mean, she's left us with, I mean, two amazing albums, to be fair, but from what we could have had down the line is simply like it's only stuff you can imagine, you can like dream of, like the levels that she would have got to in the UK scene, because she already is an icon in her own right. But it's almost for the wrong reasons, and what she could have been.
It's mostly the thing that I found mad about Amy Winehouse was the fact that like she's on such a level after only 2 albums. It's like
she was just natural born.
It's like my parents know who Amy Winehouse is, and she's got like 2 albums. Like, do you know how unheard of?
She was massive. She was massive back in like 2005-ish.
In the early 2000s, like my parents both know who she is. Like that's insane to me how big she is just after those 2 albums. Obviously, everyone knows their share of Amy Winehouse songs, but do you know what? I've never really delved in. That's an artist I can genuinely say I've never delved into.
Well, I mean, this album I've listened to just like so much on end. It's just I'm just gonna put track list up. But I mean, just honestly, you've got the classics on there. Obviously, Rehab is, arguably our most favorite tune behind Valerie.
Yeah. And you know that it's a good, and Back to Black. You know it's a good song.
Back to Black, yeah.
And Youngblood's done a cover of it that's shit.
Yeah.
Well, you know it's a good song when Youngblood's covered it. So
yeah,
that's what he does. He ruins good songs.
Man, you've got, but I mean, like even those ones, man. You got, I'm No Good's probably my favorite Amy tune of all time. The drum pattern on that is just so perfect. Like, I've got in my notes here, like it feels like the smooth vocals on the atmosphere amazing. Like it feels like you're in like a dimly lit, smoky like open mic night bar. Is what I say, but there just happens to be a world class performer on stage, just in like a black clad dress, and she's just singing her heart out for a whole and just for a time. And this is a short album as well. This is like 30. It's like 30 minutes and change. Wow. Like there's not much, and the amount of packs in here about her,
like all killer no filler.
Yeah, it really is. It honestly is. Like the amount she packs in about like her relationships with addiction, with her dad and other men. It's like it's amazing how she packed all that in. Like, you got Love Is a Losing Game, Tears Dry on Their Own. Like, I'm sure you've heard that. Me and Mr. Jones. Just so many classics, man. Like, and again, like you were saying, like I was saying about my mom, like she'd play this album loads, and I think this is probably the only one we'd share on our top 10 of all time. It's an artist that I'm glad that we can both resonate with, because I mean, I remember watching the Paul McCartney headline set from Glasgow on the telly with her, and just 80 minutes, just sat down listening to Paul McCartney, and it was, again, the Beatles aren't a band that I can relate with her so much. Like, if you had to press us for my favorite Beatles song, I'd probably say like fucking Michelle. Probably, I don't know.
Okay.
It was like there's not much I can tell you about the Beatles apart from like
Yeah.
probably the impact's better than their music. Oof, call
Yeah.
us burn
Hundred-
us to a stake. But this is it's nice to have that sort of connection with you know your family and music. I think it's a very important thing which you touched on,
Mm,
and no, it's nice to have that for me. I'm glad that I can enjoy this album the same way that she can as well. So
yeah.
yeah, man, a true classic, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, what you got for your number one?
So unlike the last podcast we did together, which was really easy to wrap up because we had the same. This was going to be a bit harder to segue into a closer because I've gone with like a really obscure choice. I have no idea how much you know about this.
Please.
I've gone with the SLP, which is Serge Pizzano of Kasabian's solo album from
Right?
2017,
I
which,
I did not know he did a solo.
which is my favorite album ever made.
Wow.
It's like I can't even
You got me
describe how
intrigued now.
good
Because
this album.
wasn't 2017 wasn't that when For Crying Out Loud came out as well from
I
Kasabian?
don't know if this was 2017 even. This might have been a bit later
Because I
on.
was thinking Kasabian dropped that same year.
The SLP. What year did this album come out? 2019.
There
Okay.
you go. Okay, that
So
explains it.
I think the singles alone set this album up for glory. Um,
hmm
the two singles from this album had Little Sims as a feature on the first one,
Excuse me,
and
I need to get on this. Wow.
Slow Tie was a feature on the second one.
How do I not know about this? What?
The
I'm
love
getting on this
child,
straight away after this podcast.
the
Swear down.
love child of Serge Pizzano,
Ah!
Slow Tie, and Little Sims. It's
It's a
got
combo.
it's got three instrumental tracks. Usually, I'm not big on instrumental tracks, but the instrumental tracks on this album are unbelievably good. Like they are so. I remember when I listened to this album the first time, I was expecting it to be horrendous. I was like, Serge is doing a solo album. This is not going to be it. And then I remember putting it on, and the first track, the instrumental, I was like, okay, no, he knows what he's doing. I can't even hate it. It's like
Mhm.
it's phenomenal. He predicted 2020 lockdown in 2019.
Huh?
There's a track on here
No
called
meme. No
no,
meme.
there's a track on here called Lockdown, and he's talking about what happens in lockdown. Um, you've also got a song called The Youngest Gary, which the whole concept of the song he's talking about how no one calls babies Gary anymore. So it's
What
just
the?
literally the youngest person in the world called Gary. But this is what I'm saying. It's like it's creatively, it's just phenomenal. Like there's so much you can
That's
take
so
from this
weird.
album. There's like there's an instrumental track about kung fu. Like there's so much going on in this album. There's so much to unpack.
Similar to the Arctic Monkeys one, the Chun Li. What was it called? Like Chun Li special move or something like that
Maybe, but
off Bigger
there's
Boys.
just so much to like. As a creative mind, this album was the one that was like, okay, Serge is like a force to be reckoned with. Like he's a proper creative.
Yeah.
Um, and this album's just phenomenal. Like the slow tie features on an interlude or something, and you don't even realize it's him until like someone told me which track. So I knew he was on the album, but I didn't know where.
hmm
But he's on one of the interludes. I think it's either "Meanwhile at the Welcome Break." Is I think the one that slow tie is on. But
That's a great title, actually. Wow.
you get like Lockdown, which is like just like your classic Serge
Yes.
Kasabian like bounce tune. You get the Woo, which is like balls to the wall rock and roll, a bit
Yeah.
folsy. You get Trance, which is literally just a trance tune. You get Nobody Else, which starts off as like this piano driven sad song, but then it develops into like this Calvin Harris esque
What
house
the
song by the
fuck?
end. And it's like a proper summer banger.
This is
You get
weird, man.
Favorites, which has FIFA written all over it, which I think it was in FIFA as well was favorites, but like it's a FIFA song, and then you
Yeah.
get the youngest Gary is the last like proper tune on it, and it's
Mhm.
just Serge singing about the youngest Gary man, and it's this whole album's just phenomenal,
I
and
will have to get on this because this is
not enough
really, really
people know about this. It's short,
intriguing.
it's really short as well. It's 38 minutes, so if you have a chance tonight, get on this.
No, I will, because I mean, I'm one of the few people that I think really like Surge as a frontman for Kasabian.
Yeah.
I've always thought Surge was an interesting character, like from just the shit he's done and like on other stuff. Like obviously he's a big football fan. He's been on like Soccer AM. He's done Soccer Aid. And just as a person, he comes off as a very energetic character, and he works as a frontman because you could argue before like Tom left the band.
In my
You could argue Surge was more popular and.
Not even in my eyes, Serge always was the front man.
The front man, yeah.
Roy always was the front man because he wrote everything, he penned everything. He just wasn't singing it, so he's always been the front man anyway. It's just now he's kind of taken those reins.
Yeah, so I mean, it almost makes sense.
The album that they've put out due to that is like actually one of the worst things I've ever heard.
Kind of contradictory.
There's moments of redemption, but I don't rate it, but I do think they're better off without Tom, and I think like live they're phenomenal. Like the times I've seen them live with Tom versus without, I'd take the without Tom times a million times over. Do you know what I mean? But I just think this is the best Kasabian album. It's the best Surge album. It's the best. Like,
that's a fucking nuts.
It's probably my favorite album ever. But this came out around the time it was just after. So do you know about Noel Fielding's Luxury Comedy?
I know of Noel Fielding, obviously, but I don't know of his luxury comedy. No,
another thing that's kind of obscure. It's still on All Four if you want to go watch it. It's like a sketch show, I suppose, where it's like Noel Fielding and he dresses up as all these weird characters and he does like a bit of animation and voice acting and stuff. And it's just the maddest thing ever. Like it's you sort of question how sane he is during a watch of this.
Yeah, he's a bit of a nutter.
It's very much like the sort of thing you want to watch when you're very drunk and having something. It's kind of terrifying in that way, but it's also hilarious. And for that soundtrack, they created a band. Did Noel Fielding and Surge created a band together, and they did all the music for this show. And it's Noel Fielding and Surge, and they do all the title songs.
That's brilliant.
It's kind of like it's got a lot of musical numbers, and Surge had a lot of input in that. But this Surge album sounds way more like that Noel Fielding show than it does anything Kasabian have ever done. But it's just a phenomenal album, and like I said, no one knows about this album, and you've got to know, man.
Yeah, man. That's you know what you've got is very intrigued now. That's something I'll have to hop on.
It is proper. I know this is like a Lady Gaga coined term, but it is very much like art pop.
Art pop, yeah.
Yeah, it's very much an art pop album, and it's phenomenal, and it just makes me want to cover myself in glitter and roll around in a field.
That's a smashing way to end it off. If you're asking me.
But yeah, no, phenomenal. That's my number one pick, always.
Wonderful.
So that is it. We've come to the end of both our lists. Have you got any more like albums that you thought of that you want to throw in last minute and just?
Honestly, I mean, to be fair, I probably had a few. I had a few going through, but now they've went off now. So,
great. So
probably just wrap it up, man.
We've been going for an hour 40 now, around an hour 45. So we'll cut it there. I'll let you go. I know you're a busy man, but that's that. So yeah. Thank you for that, Alfie.
Anytime, mate. Anytime.
Like, obviously it's been a while since we did all the plugging earlier, so if you want to give any last plugs away.
Yeah. So I mean, rewind if you want to. But like I said, Black and White FPL podcast. Get on that for a laugh and some fantasy football content.
I'll drop a link to the episode that we did as well.
Yes, do that as well. We did a top 10 songs of 2022. On my podcast channel, so yeah, get on that as well if you want to see some good musical takes again, like you've seen in this one. If you want to see more my lovely voice, not face because I forgot to record the video. But yeah, Black White FPL podcast season starting again. So if you need some tips and tricks and to have a little laugh with your shit scores, get on the pod. Black White FPL on Twitter if you don't want to miss any of the announcements for the podcasts. And Alfie_Clark12 on Twitter if you want to have a laugh at some of me shit little tweets.
That's the one. We got it. So
lovely.
That is episode 2 of the Main Stage podcast wrapped up. I'll see you next week where hopefully we've got another guest on. or else if we don't have another guest on, this podcast won't be out because we need a whole series. So just assume that there's another guest on next week. And I'm pretty sure if all the timings are correct, next week's going to be a big one. So look forward to that. I'll see you.